Okay, so everybody please mute yourself. If you still find issues with my audio, do let me know, and let's get started. So today we are going to talk about the important concepts. One is the DML, which stands for data manipulation language. So these are the commands that is used to manipulate the data. If you want to insert any new records, if you want to update records, if you want to delete records, if you want to upsert records. Upsert is basically update plus insert. If you want to do update plus insert, it is called as upsert. So you have different types of DML statements. Now, the issue with the DML statement is if you are trying to insert, let's say you have a list, and inside of this list, you have three records of lead type. Okay. And in order for you to insert
Deepika,
any
you're not
record,
sharing the screen.
oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I thought I did. Let me do it again. Okay, how about now?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we are talking about today, we will talk about the DML statements and we will talk about the database methods. Okay. And what is the difference between the database methods and DML? Both these database methods and the DML are used to insert records into the database or update records into Salesforce or delete records from Salesforce, undelete those records from Salesforce. So they are generally used. These are the statements which will use to make changes to the data. Okay. Now, an important point you have to remember is if you are trying to insert records and you have to provide the required field values. If you don't provide the required field values, that record will result into an error and you won't be able to save the record. So for example, in the case of lead record, you have to provide last name. If you don't provide last name, that lead will throw an error that last name is the required field and you have not provided the value for it, so that insert operation will fail. Similarly, if you are trying to insert an account record, the name of the record is very, very important. It is a required field. If you don't provide the required field value, that particular record will never get inserted and you will get an error message. Okay. Now, why do we have DML statements and database methods when they're doing the same thing? There is a slight difference between the two. Now, in the case of the DML, what happens is if let's say you have a list of records and you are trying to insert lead records into the database into Salesforce. When I call database, think of it like Salesforce. Okay. So let's say I have a list of lead records and there are about 4 lead records in this list. Now, out of this records, 3 of the lead records all had the required field values, last name was populated, except one record. Okay, now even though these 3 records were successful, they had no issues, this lead record is the one which has the error. But what will happen is in the case of DML, none of these records will get inserted. Now, the reason these won't get inserted because this one lead has an issue. So the entire transaction won't be successful because of this one lead record. Whereas in the case of database methods, there is a way to allow partial success. Okay, so inside of the database methods, when you do database.insert, you pass in 2 things. Okay, one is you pass in the list that you're trying to insert. So the list that you're trying to insert, it could be list of lead records, opportunity records, etc. And then there is a parameter called all or none. Now, this is a Boolean flag. Okay, the value of this could be either false or this could be true. If the value of this all or none is false, which means that the partial success is allowed. What does that mean? That means if let's say you are trying to insert a list and out of that list, few records in the list are bad records, meaning they don't have the required field values, and you have put the all or none as false, it will go ahead and insert those records which are good and ignore the ones which are not good. Okay, so partial success will be allowed. If the all or none is equals to true, that means partial success is not allowed and they will behave same as your DML statements. Okay, so that is one of the difference between database methods and DML. The other difference is in here you get a detailed output. Okay, if you want to get and it there you will get an output which you can iterate over, and from there you can figure out these were my success records and these were the failed records and what was the reason for the failure. So all the detailed description you get it in the database dot of insert. Okay, and then you also have rollback and save point. What rollback and save point is, we'll look at into in a minute, but this is the main difference between the DML statements and the database methods. They basically are used to insert or update or delete or upsert records into the Salesforce, but one offers partial success, the other does not, and one also offer a detailed output which you can iterate over and figure out what records were successful, what resulted into failure, what was the reason for the failure. All of that information this database methods will provide, not the DML. Now you will ask me, in what scenarios should I use DML versus a database methods? So generally, when you are doing batch processes, when you're writing a batch class, when you are inserting records through the batch, you will usually use database methods. In trigger, generally, since it is simple, if you want to use a simple insert or something like that, then in the case of triggers you can go with the basic DML statements as well. There is no right or wrong which one to use. If you are more comfortable using database methods, you can go with the database methods, but if you're just looking at simple clean DML, then you can just use the simple DML statements as well. Okay, any questions in the difference between these two before I go to the next exam, like before I jump to the examples? Everybody clear? Okay. Okay, everybody is clear. Let me go ahead and do some examples here. So let's go to the insert example. And this is my class. Guys, if you're not talking, please mute yourself. Okay, so over here, very simple one. I have a method defined inside, and you can see here, this is how I am first creating a record. This is not, when you write account ACC is equals to new account, you are not creating this record into the database. Nothing gets inserted into the database at this point. Okay, this is not creating a record. This is just creating a object of account record. Okay, and when you do this insert ACC, this is the DML statement which will actually put this record into the database. So until you see an insert, this record still exists. That record doesn't get inserted until the insert statement comes up. Okay, so here if I what will happen, this particular record will get inserted into the database. Now if let's say I have instead of one single record, if I create a list, okay, if I create a list here and I call this as list of accounts is equals to new list of account, and over here I am adding this list of account dot add ACC, and similarly let's say I create another account variable here and I don't provide anything, I just provide industry as technology, and I try to add list of account ACC2, and then here I am trying to do this. Now, can somebody tell me what will be the output of this program? Insert of list of account. What's going to be the output here?
It will
Maybe
throw
we
an
failed
error.
because it's a partial success.
Okay, okay, Rafini, what were you saying?
So I think both the record will get inserted and the last statement will print the account ID. It will not print, I think, anything.
No, the
I think
name
second
is
account won't get inserted because name is the mandatory field. So that will throw an error.
yeah.
Okay, and then what
Both will-
about this account?
That will also not inserted because it's
I
in
think it
DML
whole
statement.
No, it will be inserted. So the first account will be inserted, but the second one throws an error because it compiles from top to bottom.
I think
Yeah.
it will roll back everything, right?
Very
Because
good. It will be pretty much nothing is going to get inserted. Okay. The reason is if I would have done something like this, if I would have said insert, now what is going to be the output?
Now first account will get inserted.
Yeah.
Second won't.
Okay. Here, what will happen is you're separate, you are basically having two. How many DML statements I have right now?
2.
Very
Two.
good. I have two DML statement. One DML statement is to insert this account. The other DML statement is to insert this account. Now, this one will be successful because this one doesn't have any error, doesn't have any issue. The required fields have been provided. Whereas this is going to result into an error because the name, which is a required field, is not provided on the account. So this will result into a failure. Okay. Now, that's going to be the output. But if I would if I had added something like this, right? So in this case, I am doing a single insert statement, and inside of that insert I have two records. Because it is a single insert statement, one is a good record, the other one is a bad record, nothing is going to get inserted into the database because of this issue. Okay, so if I go back and if you go to the account record, I'm trying to insert accounts. How many account records you have right now? Let's go take a look at it. All accounts. You have 13 accounts here. And if you try to do this, this is also going to result into a null pointer exception. Let's see what happens here. So if I go ahead and do insert example dot of run, hit execute. You can see here DML exception has occurred, insert failed, first exception on row, required field is missing. So the name is the required field which is missing, and it tells you at which line the exception has occurred. Okay, so the line that is causing the exception is this insert statement, and an exception is something, think of exception as an error. Okay, and we will take a look into what exceptions are in detail, but think of exceptions that is going, whenever an exception occur, it will pretty much stop your program if you have not handled the exception, and this program will end abruptly. But if I would have done something like this, database dot insert, and I'm providing list of account, comma, false. Now tell me what will happen in this case.
First account will get inserted, but second won't.
Yeah.
Okay, what other answers? Is this, everybody agrees to this answer, or
Yeah, the partial success is on, so it's
partial success is on? Okay, so now what will happen is one of the records will be successful and one will be failed. So if you go here, the new account numbers will increase. It is currently 13. Once you refresh it, it should get to 14. Okay, so one record got inserted. So partial success is allowed in the case of database methods, but it is not allowed in the case of DMLs. Okay, now if you want to delete something,
Deepika,
yes,
here since we don't have the exception like try and catch box, so we from the result, from the debug result, we got to know that only one record is inserted. We'll not know what happened to the second record, right?
because in this case the database.insert automatically addresses the partial failure. So in this case, the exception, if you go here, let me clear the logs, debug. So if I run this, I want to see what is the output. Okay, so the exception part didn't happen here because because of the partial success, it pretty much didn't throw the exception in that case.
Yeah.
Okay, where if you because it's a database insert, but if it was a regular insert, then that exception was thrown. Since it is a partial success, now if I do true, what will happen in this case?
Nothing get inserted.
Nothing will get inserted. Okay, and now if I go ahead and execute this, in this case, you are going to get an exception because you have done the database.insert with the partial success as disabled. Okay, so in this case, it gave you a DML exception at line number 11.
Yeah, but with the false, we will not know what happened to the second
Yes,
account,
with the
right?
false, you won't know. With the false, you
Okay.
won't.
Okay.
Okay. So
Is
now
there a
let's
way that we know that what happens
Yes,
to the
there is a
false?
way. So basically, what you will do is the results of the database insert you can capture into a variable called save result. I'll show you how to do that. And then once you iterate over that save result, you will know which of the records failed, which of them what was the cause for the failure. You get a pretty good description of those results. Okay.
I think we
But
have. Okay. Is this from the
What is it?
insert failed? On under the logs, we have like something like insert failed first
Yeah,
exception.
because of that exception we just thrown. When you ran this program, remember you got an exception?
Yeah. Okay. This
That's
is
the exception.
DM exception. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, similarly, if you want to do a delete, so a very simple example, you just have to write down your delete statement and it will delete the record. I'm going to just go ahead. Very simple one. And okay, somebody needs to explain to me what's going on.
so we select an account with where the name is TechCorp Solution. So it will return just one account because there's a
Why?
limit.
Because the limit is also 1.
Yeah, and then delete that account, and then it prints amount deleted successfully.
Okay. So let's say we do have TechCorp in, as you can see, TechCorp Solutions is there. We don't have, let me see. Okay, TechCorp INC. So let me update this. And it is going to, you can see here, this is going to retrieve that record. Right now you have total of about 14 records. Now, if I execute this, 1 record will be deleted and you will be left with 13 records. Okay, account deleted successfully. And if you go here, come back, refresh it, you will see only 13. 1 second. If it deleted it, it didn't delete it. What happened here?
I think you didn't save the Epix class.
Didn't I? I did.
Oh,
Delete example dot run. Okay, name is equals to this one. Let me see what is this query returning. Data export. It did return a record. And then here, if I go to this, how many records do I have? 14 records. Okay, let's see. Account deleted successfully. Okay, now it got deleted. I think it was case sensitive, and I just had tech corp written one word, whereas it is expecting it to be like in a proper format. Now, this is a delete statement. Similarly, if you wanted to insert multiple records, you can do that. Let me go ahead and give you that example, and then we will do list example here. So somebody explain to me, what are we doing? Okay. So will there be any issue in this inserting contacts?
No.
No, because both the last name is provided for both the contacts. No issue occurs here, and you will be able to see right now how many do we have contacts here. So if I go to the let me see. If you go to the contacts, you will see all contacts here. So let me dismiss this list view, all contacts. So currently you have 20 records, and if I go and execute this, which is the insert list example, it is a static method. It is going to insert 2 contact records. Okay, so contacts inserted. If I refresh it, you should see 22 records should be there. And you can see here 22 records. So those 2 records that you tried to insert were successfully inserted. Now let's talk about upsert. There's a slight, yes.
Deepika,
Go ahead.
I have a question on the syntax of the previous one.
Okay.
Like, I mean to say, see, the new contact, you are instantiating the new contact with the variables, right? So here it can be the same variable, contact and contact. I mean,
No. Variable, this is the name of the list. Okay. So how do you, so there are 2 ways of writing this. One way is this way. The other way is you create a contact C1 is equals to new of contact. Okay. And then here you can basically provide your first name, last name. Okay. So this one is there.
okay.
Okay. And then you can create a contact C2
Okay.
is equals to new of contacts. Same thing here, equals to new of this contact. So here you are creating 2 separate variables.
Variable.
But what you are, and then you can add these variables
Yeah.
into this contacts. Here what they're doing is within this list itself, they are adding the 2 created contacts. They are not creating separate variables for this and separate variables for this. Automatically 2 records got added into this contacts list. Are you getting my point here, Hema?
Yeah. Okay.
So this is a different way of writing it. So within this is a list, right? This is a list of contacts. In this list, right away during the creation itself, you are adding these elements, these contacts to this list. You don't have to explicitly say add this first contact, add the second contact. Since you have written it within these curly braces, it automatically understands that these 2 contacts are part of this list. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And is it a better practice generally to have a list instead of just creating separately and then add it?
So this is a much shortcut way of doing it. So this is a better way when you have, let's say, rather than doing one individual, adding it again. This is better. This is a shortcut to create a list and define what the elements are on the list right away.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay. So now here, nothing is going to be issued. Those 2 records got successfully inserted. Now there is upsert. Now what is upsert? Upsert basically means, and you have to pay attention, upsert basically means update and insert. Now on what basis will it know that is it an update operation or it is an insert operation? So any guesses? How will it know that is it an update for me or is it an insert for me?
So it first check if the account exists or the record exists. If it
On what
exists,
basis? On what basis will it check?
So,
What will it compare?
so when we execute the update query, right? So let's say there are 10 records. So out of those 10, let's say for 5 there is ID present. So that will consider as an update, and rest will consider as insert.
If that ID matches to one of the records.
Correct.
Is
One of the
ID is the only field or you can do another field?
any external identifier.
I think the
Excellent. So you can
mandatory
either,
one.
what were you saying?
So it should be a mandatory one, right, Deepika?
When you say
Or it could be
mandatory
any.
one,
So let's say while creating account, the name is mandatory one, right? So, or could
no,
it be any?
see, name, you can't use name. The reason you can't use name, because there could be, let's say, two accounts with the same name is possible. Then how will it know which name to use, which particular record to let's say you have United Corp and there is another record with United Corp and you're using name, then which of the United Corp are you trying to update? So name will never be used. So the way to use it, either you can use ID, or you can mark any field which is marked as external ID. So any field which is an external ID field or an ID field, you can use it to figure out if it is an upsert operation or an insert operation. What is the purpose of an external ID? Can anybody tell me? This is an admin question.
So
For
we use it as a,
integration, Deepika,
For what?
integration.
Yes, for integration we use it. What else? What can you, anybody describe it?
so I describe the ID. Is that a question?
No, what is external ID? What is the
The data
significance of
is residing
external
in
ID?
the data is residing in an external system.
System, and we
Okay,
are getting that data into our Salesforce. For that purpose, we are using external ID.
So
very
it's
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's more like a unique identifier.
for an external system.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, let's say the main purpose of external ID is it is an ID which is available in an external system. Let's say you have, very good example here is, let's say you have a opportunity record, okay, inside of Salesforce, and what happens is a from an other system, a what do you call, correspond, a loan record is coming, loan is gets generated into another system, it generates an ID, loan ID, and this loan gets sent over to Salesforce. So what will Salesforce do? Corresponding to this loan, it will create an opportunity. Okay, this opportunity will have an ID, this opportunity will have a name, will have the amount, etc. And then it might also have a loan ID. Now, in this case, loan ID will be marked as external ID. What does that mean? That this particular ID exists in a separate system. And so, corresponding to this opportunity, we have a matching loan record in another system. That is the significance of making something as external ID. When you mark something as external ID, which means that that record is available somewhere in a system outside of Salesforce. Okay, so then you can check this loan ID into this system. And then if something is marked as an external ID and unique, you can particularly use that also for upsert operation. Most of the time you will use ID, but you can also use external ID as well. Any field which is marked as an external ID to check for an upsert. Okay. So how do they know if it is an upsert? If it's an update or insert, that is generally based on the ID field. Okay. So now here, let's do an example, upsert using ID example here. So I'll go to this, close all.
So Deepika, I just have one question.
Go ahead.
So you have explained ID and external ID. So let's say there are two tables which are interlinked using an ID, right? So the current table, let's say our account table has an ID and it is linked to another table and that is also had. So can we use that ID also to, and that has one-to-one relationship to delete the account? Can we use that as well?
Okay, so let's understand this. So you saying you have an account. So we are talking about within Salesforce. Okay.
Right. Yeah, within Salesforce, yes.
So account record is there. Then what is the other record?
So let's say some custom table is there, right?
Okay. Okay.
That
So
are
then
linked to.
this will, every record in Salesforce will have an ID. So this ID is there and
Correct.
there is an ID for this one. Okay. So then what is
Correct.
the question?
So now we if we want to delete a record in particular custom table, I can use ID
Yeah. To delete the
and just
record. Yeah.
correct. And in
Yes.
custom table, I have a reference of account also. Means account ID is present in custom also. Can we use that account ID in custom, which is so in custom table, I have account ID reference to. I have reference to account, the lookup,
Okay,
right?
now my question to you is, are you trying to, but if what kind of mapping is it? Is it one to many or
One to
one to
one,
one?
one to one, one to one.
Okay, it's a one to one mapping.
Yeah.
So you are saying you you're trying to delete a you're trying to upsert based on, you're trying to do an upsert or you're trying to do a delete?
Yeah, delete. So okay, so delete.
If you
there.
do a delete on this ID, it will delete the ID of this record. If you do a delete on account ID, it is going to delete that account ID record. Are you getting my
Mm,
point or no?
okay.
Because see here, if you give delete whichever ID of the record you are passing,
Mm-hmm.
or whichever record you are passing, delete record, let's say you are saying delete of C, and C is this custom record, it will delete this whole custom record. But if you are doing delete and you are passing the this record, which is A, then it is going to delete that record.
Okay.
You cannot, from, if based on what are you trying to delete here, are you trying to delete an account or are you trying to delete a record from custom? So when you're doing a delete operation, you'll say delete and you will provide that record you're trying to insert, or let's say whichever you retrieve from the database, that is the record which will get deleted. Then it's not checking the ID or anything, it's checking what did you retrieve from the database, and
Correct.
that is
Right. Got it. That will be
that is
account
the,
ID.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
So here, let's do absurd using ID example. Now somebody needs to explain to me what's happening here. Okay. Okay. So first of all, what are we doing here? Somebody needs to explain. Hema, what are we doing in this?
We are creating a new variable existing account of type account and inserting the values ID, name, and industry of these values. Then you're creating one more
Okay.
of a new account as well.
So when you have an ID, what does that tell you? When some record has an ID, what does that mean?
Look for this ID.
But that means that record exists in the
Yes.
table
Yeah.
already. Then only you have the ID, right? ID only gets generated once the record has been is available in Salesforce. Then only you
Yeah.
will have an ID. Okay.
Exactly.
So now, then what is in? So then you're creating one more
One
account,
more.
and then
Yeah.
this is okay. Then what it
Two
is happening?
accounts, and you have a list of like account list. You created account list variable that is having existing account, and then it takes two parameters, the existing account and the new account.
So how many elements are there? So what does account list has?
Right now, at the moment, doesn't have anything.
At line number 3, what does it have?
Uh, it doesn't have anything since we did not insert, like, did do any DML operations.
No.
It's just,
This is just a list. Is it
yeah,
an empty? If I do account list dot of size, how many elements will account list have?
0.
Anybody else?
It has two records.
Two
It has
It has
two
records.
records.
Existing
See here,
account
existing account you're adding to the list, and
and new
new
account.
account you're adding to the list.
But you have not included any ad or anything, right?
So that's it. This is another syntax. Either you can say account list dot of add, or you can basically, you can say account list dot of add and then say existing account, or you can write it this way where you're passing both these elements onto this list.
Okay.
Okay, so now you have two elements in the list. Now what you're trying to do here,
With the values, whatever you have it, you are upserting that account list.
Okay.
So
So now,
to the database, I mean, depending on the ID, since we are using the DML operation, existing account is gonna update the whatever the ID we have it, it's gonna whatever we are gonna pass it, it will update the name and industry, and new account it that will be newly inserted to the Salesforce.
okay, very good. So the first important thing is, let's say we pick up one account. Okay, we will go ahead and get this account here, Burlington. And for this Burlington, we will update the ID. So now it will fetch based on this ID. If it gets it, then that Burlington's name will be updated and the industry would be updated. And a brand new account will be created through this single upsert. So upsert will automatically figure out, is it um, an update operation or an insert operation or both. So it automatically figured out that in this list you have one record which already exists, so I have to update it, and there is another record in this list which is for brand new account, so that I have to create. So it automatically will figure it out. It will insert one record and it will update the other record. So if I go here, upsert it, you can see, if you go to this debug only, updated existing and inserted a new account. If you go back, go to the accounts table, you will see brand new account has been created. There is no what do you call Burlington available, and whatever was there, you can see it has been updated to updated account name. Okay, this was originally was Burlington, has been updated to updated account name. Okay, now the next one we have is a save point. Now, what is this purpose of a save point and what is the purpose of rollback? Before we jump, did everybody understood the difference between DML and database?
Yes. I have a question about so when we have a bad job,
When you have a bad job, okay.
yeah, what would you recommend using database operation?
Database methods.
Okay.
Because in the batch job, you don't want to, it happens in a batch, right? You don't want to cancel out the whole batch if there is one or two faulty records. So in that case, you will use database methods, and you can usually will do a partial success. And then whatever records were able to be processed, you will do that. And otherwise, you will create the list of those records which failed, and then you try to fix them and then do another, run a bad job again.
Gotcha. So when you cover batch up, can we have an example of that too?
Sure.
Thank you.
So remember that. Okay. Now, next is a save point and rollback. This is very, very important. And what is the purpose of save point? Think of save point as a snapshot in the database. Okay. So if you want to know exactly what is the state of your database at that point, that is the purpose when you create a snapshot. Okay, a save point acts like a bookmark in your transaction. When you set a save point, Salesforce remembers the state of the database at that moment, like taking a snapshot before making changes. So let's say you had about 4 account records. Okay, at this point you created a save point. Okay, when you created a save point means you basically took a snapshot that, okay, this is the state of the database. I had 4 account records at this point. Okay, now you're trying to insert another account record. Okay, then you're trying to, and you're also with this account, once the account gets inserted, you will try to insert a contact record to this related to the account, and similarly you're trying to insert an opportunity record related to this account. Now for some reason there is an error in this opportunity, you want to roll back everything. You can actually roll back to a particular save point. Okay, so even though this was successful, there is an error here, you can basically roll back everything and you can go to this particular save point. So in your rollback, you can specify that, okay, go back to this save point. So everything will be rolled back and you will be left with this where you started. if you created a save point, let's say you created a save point, one save point you created at the 4 records, then you inserted 2 more account records, and then here you created another save point, and then let's say you created a contact record and an opportunity record. For the rollback happens, you can specify which save point I want to go back to. Do I want to go back to this save point, or do I want to go back to this save point? So whichever you decide, it will roll it back to that particular save point. Okay, so when we do example, things will get more clear. A rollback lets you undo all DML operations, delete, insert, etc., that happened after the save point was set. So whenever, whatever you did after the save point, if you did some insert statements, basically you can roll them back. You can revert back, undo all those changes. Okay, so here let's do this example, and then I'll explain to you what's happening. So this is your save point example. Inside of this, I have a run method. Okay. So let me explain to you. So first of all, we created a static method here, and inside of this, the name of the method is a run method, and you have first itself, you have created a save point. So at this particular stage, whatever the database looks like, you created a snapshot of that. Okay, let's say at this point you had, before you started, you had how many account records? You can take a look at it. You have total of about, if you go back, you have 14 account records, right? So at this point you took a snapshot. Then what you're trying to do is you're trying to insert an account record. Okay, and this account record will be successful. The reason being, the name is a required field. You have provided that required field. So now this account record will get inserted. So now you will have total of 15 account records. You're trying to insert another account, and here the name is missing. Name is a required field, it is missing. So this will result into an exception. Okay, now anytime an exception occurs, I just wanted to give you a very brief of what exception is. So anytime a exception occurs, you will basically, if you have handle the exception means you have a corresponding catch block. So the exception that is thrown here is a DML type, and you have a catch block to handle that exception. So what will happen is, once an exception is thrown, the cursor, the execution will come here. And the first thing you see here is database.rollback. So where will it roll back? It will go back to this particular save point. Even though this account was successfully inserted, okay, then what will happen is, even though this account was successfully inserted, but you want to roll back to this snapshot. Now why would you do that? There is a reason you want to do that. If there are a set of operations you want to execute as a one transaction, and if something fails in that transaction, you want to roll back the entire transaction. That is why we will use a save point and roll back. Okay, so in this case you wanted to create both these accounts, and if even one of them failed, you want to roll it back. So now when you say database.rollback, where will it go? You will go to this save point. This save point was only 14 records were here. If you were to have added a save point at this point, and you specified, you can have up to 5 save points in a transaction. So you can have another save point 2 here. Here you can specify, instead of SP, you can have specified SP2. So then what will happen? The rollback will happen to this point. So this account will be successfully inserted, but this one, basically nothing happened here. So it will roll it back to this save point. So you can specify to which snapshot I want to go back. Did you guys understood this?
Yes, I have a question. So
Mhm.
is there any way that we have some kind of if statement in that catch block, that if the transaction fails, roll it back, otherwise just go on with the
No.
insertion?
So that's a very good point. Okay, so what happens is, this catch block will not get executed if there is no exception thrown. Okay, so this catch block will only get executed if an exception was thrown. So here, this piece of code is conditional code. It will only get executed if the exception was thrown. If you have provided this ACC account and you provided a name here, name is equals to account 2. So now both these accounts are valid accounts. No exception will be thrown. No catch block will be executed. Okay, so
Right.
no rollback will happen.
I got it. Thank you. But is there any way that if, for example, we have a back job, right, and we want to have like a partial success, how can we handle it? Something. Is there any way to handle that? That, like, for example, one account has everything, like name, last name, the last name, the mandatory fields, and one doesn't. How can we handle that to just have a partial success?
Yeah, we will use database methods. Inside of the database methods, whatever you're trying to insert, you will have all or none set to false. So partial success will happen for that records.
Deepika, I was just wondering, why, in what scenario we are using the partial insert, insert.
So the
Like,
partial ones we do it when, let's say, you had a list of records. Okay, you don't, out of this list of records, 10 of the records are fine and there is 2 records which have error. You want to continue with the insertion or of these records even though these 2 records have problems. So that is when you will do a partial success. That if you're doing, let's say you're doing a batch process. When you say batch process, means you have thousands of records that you are updating through a batch. Out of those 1,000 records, let's say 900 had no issues with them. Okay, there is no problem with these 900 records. Only hundreds are the one which have errors, or there is a validation errors or something there that you cannot update or insert them. You want to
just
still,
bypass. You want to bypass them. Okay.
you want to bypass them. That's when
Okay.
you're going to go ahead and say database dot update or insert, allow this one, and don't worry about these for now. We'll take care of them later, but at least process the 900 ones.
Thank you.
Can you have it within that logic, that DML catch, when you go ahead and let's say one of the counts is bad, rather than rolling back all the way to the beginning before that first account was inserted, can you just save that account in other words in the
Yes.
loop?
So
And
what
then
you will do here is you will say you will have another save point. Okay. This would be SP2. Okay. And then instead of roll back into this point, you will say SP2. So it will roll back to this account will be successfully inserted. And then this is failed anyway. So you will be at this save point.
So you could put in different save points, but
Yes.
But not, is there something logic you could put within without putting another save point in where we will know that one record was good? Or let's say there's 50 records. Let's say 25 of them are good, but the other 25 aren't. So that the logic would know to go just back to a save point where all the records were good, the first 25.
Yeah, so then what you can do is you don't have to use save point. You can just say database dot insert, and then whatever was successful will be successful. Whatever were failed will not get inserted. Okay, so then you don't have to worry about save point. Here is basically if you have a transaction, right? This is a start and end of a transaction, and you want to consider the transaction to be complete when every step in the transaction is complete. If one of the transaction step in the transaction fails, so for example, one very good example is you go to the ATM, right? You go to the bank ATM, you put your PIN, the account, you're trying to withdraw money, and let's say while withdrawing the money, the cash didn't come out and you don't want the balance to be deducted, you have not received your cash. So what you want is you will basically roll back everything and you will go back to the place where you started, so that way your balance remains intact. So that's when you will roll back to a situations your first you will go ahead and enter your PIN. Your $200 you're withdrawing, so 200 will be deducted from it, but then you will get the cash out. But let's say this is the step which caused the error, you still want to roll back to everything that has happened before. So the deduction of 200 will be reverted back and you will come to the original state. So when you wanted to do something in form of a transaction, and if everything finishes up good, if something fails, then you want to roll back the entire transaction.
Okay.
So, okay, that is the purpose of a transaction.
It's an all or nothing kind of thing.
All or nothing. Okay.
And
So
is it only
yeah.
one rollback, right? We can have, you mentioned we can have 5 save points at a time.
In a transaction, yes, you can
Yeah.
set up multiple save points, but rollback also, if let's say this is a catch block, you can have another catch block and you can have that rollback if basically another type of exception occurs, you want to roll it back to a certain save point. So you can have, depending upon which exception got caught, you can have multiple rollbacks for that exception.
Okay.
Okay. So now here, so what will be the output here? It will basically go back to this save point. This is the one. So if there is an exception thrown here, let me run this. So let's save this one. Right now you have 14 records. Okay, and let's do this. Oh. Okay, can anybody tell me why there is an issue?
Because you didn't define SP2.
I
It's
did
not a
define.
variable.
It's within try block. It's catch is not recognizing that
Very good.
variable.
So how do I resolve it?
Yeah, you
So
should
you
move it
can
up to save point.
Very good.
Yes.
So first I'll do it here. I will move it here, save point sp2, and then I'll say sp2 is equals to database start of save point, and then it will recognize, because I had, see, wherever you have declared that variable, only the scope is limited to those block. So I declared the variable here, so it was only visible within these braces. I was trying to access it over here, that's why it was complaining. I moved the declaration to, at this point, outside of the try block, so the scope improved. So it will be between this braces and this braces. So that's why this understood that, okay, the whole class under the method understands it. It was able to recognize the save point. Okay, so everybody understood why do I have to move it up?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go here, save point example.run. Currently have 14 records, which I'm expecting it to be at 15 records. Okay, so inserted because we moved it to, so now I'm expecting, oh, sorry, 16 records. What happened? Was it 15 before?
No, no,
Oh,
you
No,
added
we
because this is,
inserted.
okay,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so then this one. Okay, so in this case, exception never thrown, so there was no rollback happened. So these two records successfully got inserted. Okay, if I remove this one, now what will happen?
We'll have, so just one account is created and then exception happens too.
Then the rollback will happen and it will go back to this save point. So right now you have 16 records. Now you will be left with 17 records. And in this case, so if you go back, account inserted successfully, error occurred. And if I go here, I'm expecting 17. But if I go ahead and do this, what will happen now?
We'll have it stays at 17.
It will
Nothing
stay at
will change.
17. This account record won't get inserted. Okay, because this will cause an exception. It will roll back to this save point. At this save point, nothing was there. Whatever the current state was, it will remain at that state. Okay, guys? Any questions?
And there is a limit per transaction, just 5 save points per
5
transaction.
save points per transaction. Okay.
But there isn't any limit on rollback, or just 5 rollbacks too. Is that right?
No, the rollbacks is just going to wherever the exception occurs, from that point you want to roll it back. You're not going to do multiple rollbacks. You're going to do properly. You only want to do one rollback, right?
Oh, so we can have just one rollback.
Please understand the purpose of rollback. Let's say let's say you have a catch block. Inside of this catch block, you have a rollback. Okay, and you will specify there is another catch block, you have a rollback there. So either this rollback will execute or this rollback. You cannot, if you have rollback SP and you have already rolled back to that, this is something you have to practice it. If you've already rolled back to this transaction, if you write another rollback, what are you going to do from there? You've already rolled it back to this point.
Right, it's pointless. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. So now another one, account contact transaction. Yeah, go ahead.
Deepika, one. Like just in case if that code has multiple exceptions, so it will just roll back to the first roll catch block, and then it will roll back to the whatever was the before.
No. It will. So if it was multiple catch block, whichever catch block it matched, that is the rollback of that catch block will be executed. If there was a catch block of DML exception, the exception thrown was DML, so that is the one will be called. If the exception thrown was a query exception, then the corresponding catch block will get executed. If you don't have anything with query exception, you have everything else as exception, then in that case, query will fall into this block.
Yeah, I mean to say for example, my code has multiple exceptions like DML and query and everything. So how it's gonna be?
So but your code is at one point, your code is only going to throw one type of exception, right? It's not going to throw DML first, then query. It either going to throw a DML exception or the query exception. Are you getting my point, Hema?
Yeah. Okay.
So because see here, if you, let's say you're trying to insert a lead record and you didn't provide the last name for the lead, then you are trying to you have a statement, select a lead record, and that lead record doesn't exist. If the exception at this point, where will it get thrown? At this line or at this line?
Oh, first line, because
first line. So once it throws here, it will never come back to this line. It will go after what is written in after the catch block. So this will never get executed.
Okay.
Okay. So only one type, this exception was thrown. If this was successful, if for some reason you provided the last name, lead was successfully inserted, then you will go to here. Here the exception will be thrown. But once it goes to the catch block, it will never come back to the next statement. It will go back to the next line after the catch block.
Okay.
Do you remember how the try catch works? So whatever you write inside of try, okay, this is number one statement, this is number two, this is number three. Let's say an exception was thrown at line number 2. Corresponding to that exception, you have a catch block. Then what will happen? The cursor will come from line number 2 to the catch block. Then it will not go back to line number 3. It will basically go whatever is written after the catch block.
Okay.
Okay, nothing will get printed here.
Okay. Yeah.
So guys, there is a small assignment for you, since now you understood. Some of the students have already done this assignment because they're coming from a different batch. Some of the students have not done it. So here I have the assignment. I have a simple sheet. Okay, it's an account sheet, a CSV file. Okay, comma separated file I have. Inside of that file, I have name, I have industry, I have what else I have? Let me show you. I have, this is the only assignment I'm expecting from you. So I have few things. Okay. This is the file, name, industry, phone, website. What I want to do, every record is separated by a comma. I just want you to write down the logic. I'm not expecting you to give me the code. I'm expecting you to give me the logic on how will I insert single record for this Google, then another record for Amazon, another record for Tesla. Basically, I want 3 records to be created for each row of this. Sorry, not for each row. Basically, for every row, I want an account record to be created inside of Salesforce. So I want it to read the file. Okay, you know string methods, go figure out those string methods. You check out the string class. You will also know, you have to provide me the logic of how will I create a record per this row. Are you getting my question?
Yes, so
So
basically we want 3 accounts for
I want
Google,
3
Amazon,
accounts
and
to be
Tesla.
created. If let's say this file had 5 accounts, then I want 5 of those accounts to be created. So I wanted to read this file and create an entry for each row.
So records in the Salesforce, 3 records in the Salesforce.
3 records in the Salesforce. Name will be Google, industry would be technology, phone number would be this, website would be this for the first account. Name would be Amazon, industry would be retail, phone number will be this, a website would be amazon.com. Similarly, a third account, name should be Tesla, industry should be automotive, phone should be this, and then this is the website. So this is the file, account data.csv. You have to read this file and create account records from this file. Are you getting my point?
Which is this file in the folder?
I can put it, or you can just create it on the fly.
Okay. No, I'm asking the the assignment file.
Okay, let me put it in the assignment. I think it should be there, but let me see. It might be in the, let me see, the assignment file I have it. No, that's the different assignment. Okay. I believe you have it. Let me first create it. File save as. Weekday batch. Okay. Assignments. Okay, so this is the file, and I'm uploading this file over here. Okay, so corresponding to this, you have to read the file and create a record for each row. You have to give me the logic first. How will you do it? And what methods of the string class you will use in order to do that. So take a look at the string class, see what you have to do. What are the things that you can figure out from here? Tell me, how will you do it? Any questions, any answers right now, or you want to look at it first?
Yeah, we need to find out how to use separated by the commas. So we have commas.
Very good. That is one thing. And then you have to, so I'll give you one logic. First, you have to separate out this row, because this row is not the one you will be creating an account. This is just a row to tell what are points you are inserting, right? So you have to ignore the first line. You have to start from the second line. And then every element is comma separated, and a line is separated by a new line. So these are some hints. So use these hints to figure out how are you going to read this file. That's the only homework for today, tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Okay.
basically, I would separate the first row in
Hmm.
4 different columns, and then I would go to the first one, divide it to 4 columns, and insert it to each row. I would do something like that.
Okay.
So if there is any empty column, then that will cause a problem, right?
If there is what?
An empty for one of the row,
Hmm.
if any of the value is empty, then that will, if we are going for a general logic like that.
No, I think if it is empty, so I'm not sure. I need to expose Salesforce, but Split provides an array list if we do this, right? Copy,
No,
separate
just
Yeah.
by all,
name is mandatory in Salesforce.
right?
No,
So
no. So what he said is that's correct. So whenever you basically when you're splitting it up, it will convert this row into whatever the elements are available. One, two, three, four elements in the list. Then you
yes,
iterate over those 4 elements. Name will be Google for that. Industry will be
yes,
technology. Phone would be this. Website would be this. You will
yeah.
insert the record. We will take a look at it tomorrow, but I want you to first figure it out yourself. And let's see how many of you will be able to do it. You can use a little bit of AI, but don't just get the whole answer from AI.
Uh, is it like, do we need to do any kind of validation, or just you want,
No, right now this is a plain simple one, no validation needed.
okay, whatever is there, just put it on those 4
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Have
Deepika,
you
one
guys?
thing that I just wanted
Yeah.
to ask, right? So uh, I was asking about that issue, right? The external ID one,
Mhm.
deleting a record based on external ID. How can we doing that in Salesforce? You said
Creating
ID, deleting a record. ID we can do. Okay, but how can we do in using a external ID?
I was saying upserting a record through external ID.
Upsetting a record through external ID. Okay.
So basically, what I was saying was either you can use ID to figure out if it was an existing record, or you can use an external ID field as well to figure out if it is an update or an insert.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay, so if you don't want to use ID, you can even go with the external ID. And that external ID basically will decide, will based on the external ID, it will see if that record has that external ID, then it will be an update. If that external ID doesn't exist, then it will be an insert.
Okay, but that we can use for any other name which is not means I mean which is not duplicate, right? The values are not duplicate. We can use that in any column, right?
No, you can only use ID field or an external ID field. You can't use name field or a phone number field. You can't do that. Only these two. If you try
No,
to put, yeah,
but let's say the example I gave, right? Account table map to a custom table, right? If I select an account based on the custom ID, custom table ID, right? So that will be and it has one-to-one mapping. So I can figure out an account based on the custom ID in the account, and I can update that account, right?
yeah. So you can say, okay, so you are saying from custom dot of account ID equals to 111 and it is retrieving you this account record?
No. So let's say I am updating a account record, right? I am updating
Okay,
account, and I have a custom table lookup. So account and custom tables are having one-to-one mapping. Correct.
okay.
Account table has
So,
a custom table
so
ID also.
account table has a custom table ID. Okay. You
Correct.
can
Can
do,
can I use this custom ID? It has one-to-one mapping. Can I use this custom ID to update the records in the database
which table?
in account?
Yes. You can say, select. So
Correct, correct.
this custom ID will have, let's say, account custom ID is the name of it. Okay, you can say select ID comma account custom ID from account where account custom ID is this. Okay, so
Right.
this is going to give you this account record.
Correct.
Okay, and then you can say delete on this account record. So you don't have to use ID column. You can use this field, which is also pointing to this account records. You can query based on any field of the account object. You can use a name field, you can use a custom ID field, you can use account ID field, you can use any field to query the account record.
So how do we do for external ID then? The same way, right? Select
Yes.
external ID.
So external ID will be a field, let's say, on the account object. The way to make it an external ID, that there is a checkbox. When you're creating a field, there is a check mark that says
Yes.
mark it as an external ID. So when you
Yeah.
mark that field as an external ID, that checkbox check that makes it as an external ID field. So that field will have a name, right? So you can use that field name to query as well.
Okay. I
Okay.
thought there are similar way that okay.
No. External ID is nothing but you mark an one field as external ID field, means it is referring to an external system. That's it. And the way to create external ID is just check that checkbox while creating the field.
But that okay, got it. So external ID is nothing but a column in the database. So we can
Yeah,
use that field to figure out the which record to delete, like any other record, like any other
exactly.
column. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Same time. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a good
Nikita.
night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.